sim races from around the globe, honoring a revolutionary era of open-wheel racing. With a beast not easily tamed, roaring around legendary circuits at breakneck speed. When engineers and drivers push boundaries, sometimes too far. When heroes muscled roaring beasts wheel to wheel around the hallowed ground. A time when the only driver aids were his 2 feet, the perfect combination of man, machine, and speed. Experience the competition and the glory of early 80s IndyCar action. The Lionheart Retro Series presented by Next Level Racing starts now. "77 days ago, the Lionheart Racing Series saw its closest ever championship finish. After 10 months and 18 races across the globe, the Lionheart Retro Series ended with teammates Aaron Morgan and Matt Taylor tied on points. Amidst the chaos and the confusion, Aaron Morgan emerged victorious on countback to be crowned the 2021 Lionheart Retro Series champion. With a new chapter to be written, the two championship rivals now find themselves on different teams, ready to challenge for the crown once more. The road to the championship begins here in the Sunshine State. Welcome back to RaceSpot TV and to Homestead, Miami, for coverage of the HyperX Miami 200. Hello everyone, we're ready to go racing once more in the classic Lotus 79 around the best road courses, ovals and streets across of the globe. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra comfortable cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. And my name, again, is Arjuna Kenkipati, back for another season alongside a driver that was racing 12 months ago here at Homestead, Miami, DJ Clark. Let's dive straight into our next level racing pre-race show because DJ, championship runs begin here. In the real world, when stock cars used to come here to close off the season, championships were defined here. Very different though, and you think back to the race that we had last year, plenty of chaos and carnage, and guess who emerged on the podium 12 months ago?
Well, I think that would happen to be me by happenstance. But yes, this is a track that is one that you really have to read over the course of it. It's not a simple point-and-shoot oval, something that is big and long. It is a very, very different track to anything else these drivers are going to face, and it is one heck of a way to start out the series, Arjuna.
We've got 3 races in the month of March, and a season that spans across of 2022. Once more, we'll finish at Auto Club Speedway in December, but a long way to go. New tracks include the likes of Nashville, a return to the British Isles for Brands Hatch. We won't go to Silverstone. Instead, we'll go to that wonderful facility that's hosted these cars in the past. Hungaroring joins the party. And of course, don't forget the circuit Gilles Villeneuve as well. But that is a long way away, and that might help to define the championship. Let's talk about your series details presented by Gomez Sim Industry. It's the 6th season of the Lionheart Retro Series, the 9th year of the Lionheart Racing Series. We're racing, like I said, the Lotus 79, the F1 machine that was campaigned around the world at the end of the 1970s with a custom fixed setup with a cash and prize pool that is now over $7,000. It also includes, for your championship winner, a Next Level Racing GT wheel as well as some hardware from our other sponsors. The Triple Crowns are always fun. We go back to Pocono, we go back to Indy, we go back to Auto Club. Will we see the first driver in Lionheart history to be able to win across of them? Important to note, your defending champion Aaron Morgan is only on a part-time schedule this year. We won't see him too much, mainly on the road courses, maybe at New Hampshire in a couple of weeks' time as well. But he was part of that Avatar Auto Racing team that dominated this championship last year. Slightly broken up, still have Michael O'Brien as well as Matt Taylor working together, but a very different team now looking to try and assert their dominance once more. Here's a look at your event details presented by Moser Racing as we return to the Magic City where this series began in 2017. In the 5 years we've been here, we've seen 5 different winners, and pole position has never entered HyperX victory lane. It's a track, DJ, that we do expect a number of cautions to come out. Lowest number we've seen on a couple of occasions was 4.
Indeed, and that's really because of the multi-groove racing that we tend to see around this track. Watch for early on the middle and high grooves to really be preferred, and then as the race goes along, we get that low groove starting to come in a little bit more as the track rubbers in, so we could very easily see 3-4 wide by race end.
Race is finished under caution once, and look at that margin of victory. Get your cameras out. Only in Season 1 was the margin greater than 1/10 of a second. We've seen finishes down to the 100th the last couple of years. Sage Karam won last year in a string of form that really saw him dominate and basically pencil himself in as your champion-elect. Before things started to go wrong for him, Sage Karam left the championship midway through the year and opened the door for a new champion to be crowned. Well, DJ, let's say hello to everyone watching on RaceSpot TV, on ESTV as well. Let's talk a little bit about what this series presents, right? Because IndyCar, we know what that's about. Different challenges and adapting to that. This car was about Formula One when it used to get raced. But here in the Retro Series, we throw all sorts of things at it. And very much like you do see in American open wheel racing, you got to be adaptable, to be able to come out on top.
Yeah, you really do. It is very, very similar to the IndyCar series in the fact that we're going to go to road courses, street courses, short tracks, super speedways, absolutely everything. And one of the things that makes this series so spectacular to watch is you see some of those specialists that really start to shine here. You'll see some guys that absolutely dominate on those super speedways and maybe struggle a little bit when we get to the tight and twisty confines of Long Beach. And that is why this is such a long championship. It is so crucial to just try to maximize your points. You're not always going for a win in this series, but you want to just have a good average across the board.
Aaron Morgan knows that better than anyone. He was very much a road course ace who managed to secure some good points on the ovals as well, but ultimately his championship was all down to that road course pace at the end of the season. We caught up with him a couple of nights ago. You won't see him racing tonight. We'll learn more about that right now. It was the closest title finish in Lionheart history, and it came all the way down to the checkered flag and then 20 minutes of confusion after that. But Aaron Morgan won his first Retro Series championship at the end of 2021, and he joins us now. Aaron, let's first go back to that final race midway through December and how things ended there, because it was you versus a teammate. Ultimately, you came out on top.
Yeah, it was crazy. I really was not sure what was going to happen there. I had some help telling me about like where I needed to finish, just to, you know, figure it out so I knew if I needed to push harder or what. And I had to tell him to shut up because he kept giving me updates on the last like 3 laps, and I was like, no, wait until the last lap, and it just was chaos. And then the caution, it was crazy.
Now, you're one of the drivers that actually competes in multiple series. How does that work for you? I mean, just this week, for example, you have both the IndyCar and the Retro Series openers, and they're 2 very different cars at the same track on 2 consecutive days. How do you prepare for that?
Well, so usually last year what I did is I would go to the IndyCar Series practice race on Monday, and then the Retro Series practice race on Tuesday, then the Indy race on Wednesday, and then the Retro race on Thursday. So it was a really packed week and a lot of stuff filled in. But this year I'm only doing a partial season on Retro, and truthfully I don't even think I'm going to be racing this Thursday in Retro. I'm only going to be doing Wednesday, I think. It takes something weird for me to do Retro this week. But it's just a lot of time.
And I guess now you want to focus on IndyCar, and I was just talking about this with Adam Blocker a couple of nights ago, and talking about how competitive this season is going to be, so I think maybe it benefits you to be focused a little bit more on just one of them.
Yeah, it's going to be really competitive. I need to really start surviving these ovals again like I did the year before last, to that half a year in Indy where I could survive and get top 10s on ovals. If I can do that, I think my point standing will go much higher, and I really want to focus on that. The main thing though is just like my free time. That's why I'm doing a partial season, is because I felt like I had a lack of free time, and I wanted to open that up so I can spend time with my family more.
And being able to decompress, I think, is more important than people realize. The mental side of sim racing is so paramount. Let's talk a little bit about Lionheart itself, though. It's such a great community, and one that you're really a big part of in the after race, after dark sessions when things get a little bit loose and interesting, but also just these practice races that you mentioned as well. There's so much behind the scenes that makes Lionheart more than just one of the top open wheel series across of iRacing, but a real community that gets to meet up every once in a while as well.
Yeah, I love everyone that's in this league. Like I said it after the race in December, like, you know, iRacing isn't my hobby, Lionheart is, because it's the only thing I do in iRacing now, and I'm happy that it's like that, because I can hang out with a bunch of friends afterwards. I can hang out with them. There's a lot of time we've been spending in the off season together. Less so with me, truthfully, because I've had stuff going on with changing jobs and stuff outside of you know, online life. But it's a great community. I'm proud to be part of it. It's so much fun. It's just great guys.
So let's talk about expectations first for IndyCar, and then we'll dive a little bit into Retro. In terms of the season, I think we've got 6, maybe 7 drivers who have a potential shot at finally stopping Adam Blocker. For you, do you have a championship aspiration in mind, or, like you said, focusing on the oval, surviving there, and continuing to show the good pace that we've seen from you on the road courses?
I think my expectations, I'd hope for a top 5 in points. It's a big ask, because, like you said, if there's like 7 or so people that can topple Adam and I don't have championship aspirations, then how can I beat any of those guys that have those aspirations? But I don't know. Last year I could get in the top 5 consistently on the road courses, and the year before and last year when I survived on ovals, I was in the top 10, and I think that alone the consistency could put me into that top 5, and that's really my goal this year is hopefully a top 5 in points.
What about then in this Lotus 79? You say partial schedule, but we're going to see you, I'd assume, for plenty of the road courses. We're going to some really fun ones that we went to last year, of course, but the addition of the Hungaroring, I think, is really one we're looking forward to. We'll see you around for the Triple Crowns as well, or are those something that you're not going to be able to make?
I might. I got to look at them as they come. It's definitely road. Retro, I want to get the road championship again. That's my goal there. Not a hard goal, because if I'm not doing it full time, I won't be too bummed if I don't get it. But that's what I'm hoping. I'm also going to do a few just ovals that I really like. New Hampshire, Gateway, those are ovals I love running anyway, so we'll do those.
Well, even if you're not racing then to start the season, we'll see you at New Hampshire then for round 2. Thanks for joining us, Aaron. Congratulations on the championship, and best of luck for the rest of 2022.
Thanks, man.
Well, we are ready to get underway with the first race of 18, and what a roller coaster we've got in store for us here in the Sunshine State. Qualifying rolls its way underway. About half the time has already expired. 5 minutes, 2 laps. The track is to yourself. The pressure is on, and just like yesterday in the Lionheart IndyCar Series opener, where the top 15 were separated by just about 1/10 of a second, that's what we're looking at here as well, DJ. The top 17, in effect, split by 900ths of a second. The margins in qualifying, they're so fine here.
They are indeed, and it goes to show you just how well these setups are suited for really everybody's driving styles to make everybody be able to get the maximum out of the car, as well as just the outright talent here that exists in this Lionheart Retro Series. It is absolutely incredible to see.
And let's talk of the talent of this man. David Rodriguez showed pace when it came to the speedways, but really the question still remains, how did he save enough fuel in that race at Iowa? Car still under investigation. Adam Frazier has pumped himself up to 6th spot in that 88. Herrick on his Lionheart debuts up to 2nd himself. David Rodriguez, you saw him running up high on lap number 1 to build the momentum, build up the speed. He'll come down low the second time around and up to the line. It's a 29.114. It's 2nd place. Matt Taylor looks to put back in his back pocket the disappointment of last season. He's up there at the top of the field as well.
And Paul Jenkins able to pop his way up to P1 as well. So clearly a lot to still be decided here. Just those infinitesimal margins making the difference. Just the slightest bobble, the slightest running of that left side tire over on to the white lines around this track. The difference between a pole position and maybe even 17th.
Looks like just a couple of cars yet to set a lap time. Ricky Harden is rolling around right now on a lap time of his own, but the likes of Lionel Kalisto, Brett Accord, Matthew Schofield, and Brian Hoffman will not be setting a time. It's one of the biggest fields that we've seen in a while in this Lionheart Retro Series. Not the biggest we've ever seen at the Homestead Miami Speedway. That went back in Season 1 when 43 cars were rolling around the track, but we've still got 38 locked and loaded. Ricky Harding puts a time on the board, but it's only good enough for 34th. With that said, though, qualifying winds its way complete. We're ready to go racing under the sun here at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Let's go trackside to take a look at your starting grid for the HyperX Miami 200. And here is your butt kicker starting grid. It is Paul Jenkins, who had a torrid 2021 that is looking for redemption in a new year. He's put it on pole with a 29.048. It is his second pole position in a Retro Series history. Matt Taylor 3,000ths behind him to lock out the front row there, with Craig Forsyth and David Rodriguez third and fourth. Jim Herrick and Michael O'Brien complete the top six. Mike Rasmas and Luke Daniels 7th and 8th, while rounding out the top 10 it's Chris Fowler and Dustin Wardlow. Chris Lanini and Adam Frazier will share row 6. George Enzaldo, the series organizer, back in 13th alongside Danny Roberts, no longer in the red, instead now in the yellow and black, while Rodrigo Munoz and Tyler Groff 15th and 16th. Former IndyCar racer Richie Hearn lines up in 17th, inside of Isaac Snyder for the RSR by butt kicker number 13. Marius Volokis makes it 3 RSR cars in this championship. Watch out for them in the team standings. Will Gibson outside on the edge of the top 20. Gary Gotso, Mike Rigney share row 11, while Alex Guyon and Chris Staples right behind them on row number 12. Luis Gonzalez Nunez and David Sirois 25th and 26th. Disappointing qualifying from Sirois, who is really starting to get comfortable on the ovals in the later stages of last year. Trevor Malone, Scott Holmes 27th and 28th, while Cristobal Valenzuela and Hugo Gallas in 29th and 30th for the Backfire Motorsports team. Robert Mikes, Adam Young, Christopher Reagan, and Ricky Harding, the final car setting qualifying lap times. Lionel Kalisto, Matthew Schofield, Brian Hoffman, and Brett Accord round out our 38 cars ready to roll here for what is bound to be a helter-skelter opening race. As always, we've got a plethora of cameras to take you around the track. We've also got some featured onboards to walk you through. Let's dive our way into them then, because starting first, it is the series organizer George Enzaldo that carries the butt kicker on board. Sim racing is better with butt kicker. Visit buttkicker.com.
Next up is Mike Rasmus in the Graphics Esports on board. Graphics Esports, world-class design from the real world to virtual. Visit graphicsesports.com.
Then you have Alex Guyon, who is carrying the Moser Racing onboard, redefining sim racing. Go further, go faster with Moser Racing. Visit moserracing.com.
And finally, Matt Taylor on the number 8 machine will carry the HyperX on board. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game.
We'll have featured onboards from those four, but onboard looks with every single one of the cars in your field. 133 laps yesterday in the IndyCar Series. We went caution-free. Can we expect that? Probably not. But what better way would we have to start off another year of Lionheart Retro Series competition? Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and this is the HyperX Miami 200, the start of the campaign. We're racing in the Sunshine State.
And it looks like a very good start there for Paul Jenkins. Behind him, Taylor and Rodriguez trying to slot their way into line. Remember, a lot of those drivers, you don't want to get down super low here early. Tire temperatures need to come up to speed to be able to run that low line. It's much easier to go high.
They're almost 3 wide back on the edge of the top 20. Single file at the front, scrambling for positions a little further back. Dirty air, not going to be as important today, DG, as it was yesterday, but getting some clean air on the nose might help you save the tires. You and I were talking about this pre-race. You don't want to be down low early in these runs.
No, you really don't. You can get down there, but the problem is the wash that comes out. So you can get down there if you're running in a little bit of clean air or in a single file position, but if you're trying to run 2 or 3 wide down low, it is going to be a one-way ticket to disaster. You need to wait until the fuel burns off. You need to wait until these tires wear in a little bit more to really be able to run an effective low line.
They are 3 abreast across the start-finish line. Chris Fowler is the meat in the sandwich as he goes a little bit up high, almost runs into Mike Rasmus as they're just fanning themselves out. 3 wide all the way through the corner. It is allowing a little bit of a breakaway between 6th and 7th, now to the tune of half a second. They stack up behind, searching for some space.
And that's a very frustrating thing when you are in that position there of Dustin Wardlow sitting in the back. You're just trying to figure out a way by, but there's absolutely nowhere you can go. I have been in that position, Arjuna, and it requires the utmost patience to not just send a crazy move to try to get by.
Right on board with the number 9 machine, the Candyman, who joined us again last year. They are looking to squabble a little bit more up front as well. Matt Taylor has worked his way to the race lead as he's now cycling himself in front of Paul Jenkins. David Rodriguez looking down low as he tries to get past the blue and white of Craig Forsyth. The action starts to pack themselves up again. 38 car split by just under 6 seconds.
2x2 action here as they work their way around. Jenkins here, a very experienced driver, a very heady driver. He likes to think out all of his moves. So don't be surprised if he falls down here to maybe 5th place or so, just kind of letting the race come to him. He drives a little bit like one of the greats in the IndyCar series, Rick Mears.
133 laps for us to get our season opener underway and a winner crowned. The fuel window likely to be about 40 laps or so, so you are looking at a 3-stop race if we go clean. That is not a certainty, that is for sure. Michael O'Brien trying to get racy as they were 3 wide for 3rd for a brief moment, stacking themselves up once more. If you're a driver in this situation, DJ, how do you approach this? If you're Michael O'Brien, how aggressive do you want to be?
This stage in the race, you do not want to be aggressive. You want to let the race come to you. Based off of past history, and the good drivers will have done the research onto that, you know that there are going to be yellow flags coming, and you want to give yourself not only the chance to avoid those incidents and not be necessarily wheel to wheel to wheel, but you also want to give yourself an opportunity to take advantage of drivers in front of you were to crash out.
This reminds me a little bit about the race that we try not to think about at Motegi. Yes, they went 5 wide there into turn 3 within the first 10 laps or so and ended, as you'd expect, rather poorly, but at least for now, they're getting racy and very much like they were last night, leaving each other plenty of room. The one thing that we know is a certainty with online racing is the speed of light is the speed of light. You can only go as close as the iRacing gods will let you, and these drivers are not risking anything. If we go green from here, we're looking at about 61 minutes left to go in this race. Remember, the minimum number of cautions that we've seen over the first 5 races has been 4. The trend continues, though. Pole position not where you want to be. Paul Jenkins is starting to lose a little bit of ground through the corners and looks in his rearview mirrors as Michael O'Brien around the outside continues to close.
And that's a really good line to be running here early. That super, super high line. You're able to diamond off the corner a little bit more, and you can see Paul doing it there as well. That line's going to get a little sketchier as the race goes along. Marbles will kick up on the track, but as the track hasn't really had that rubber buildup yet, it means right now that you can just go up there and carry as much momentum as possible around that progressive banking.
Great shot as they run themselves into turn 1. We give a shout out to Dougie Beard for our cameras for today's activities. Michael O'Brien is now up into 4th on the timing screen. He's managed to just about squeeze out Craig Forsyth as the 2 MadWorks esports machines of O'Brien and Fowler try and join their teammate up front. It was Avatar Auto Racing domination in 2021. 2 drivers remain with a new team name. They've got a new teammate for company as well. They're looking like the ones to beat with just 10 laps done in this season.
Yeah, they are looking very, very strong, and that team's championship will really start to factor into drivers' mentalities. They will be on the radio with each other, talking to one another, talking through strategy, talking through, you know what, I can't get by this guy, let him go by. That's one of the advantages you get in sim racing, is that direct communication with your teammates.
That's something that we see from the likes of the private label team Hype in the IndyCar series. They've led the championship there now for over a year without falling back, I should say, in the pack. Here's a look top to bottom at what's going on. You want to look further back as well, because for 14th, they were almost 4 wide for a moment. I know this is where drivers realize that they can't let the championship fall away from them so early, TJ, but surely there's also that mentality with no fast repairs. If you get damage in this car, it can be somewhat difficult to get it fixed on an oval. You've got to be just a little bit careful. They are starting to squeeze just that little bit more. Maybe the tire's starting to fall off.
Yeah, the tire's starting to fall off a little bit, and when the tires fall off and heat up in this car, what they do is they get a little bit grippier and slippier, if that makes sense. It's a little bit of a contradiction, but what it is that means you're able to get a little bit more bite into the corners as you go, and you'll start to have a little bit of a squirrely loose end at the back. So drivers starting to feel that front end grip, feeling a little bit more aggressive with it, but they've got to be careful because the rear end can really, really snap if they take a little bit of an unorthodox line through some of these corners.
You do have to remember these are bias ply tires, so they were designed to last the full race distance. It means strategy in the pit stops is a little bit more interesting because you're not limited by the amount of time it takes to put on fresh tires. Instead, you're limited by how much fuel you want to put on. They are 2 wide, 4 rows deep with a little bit of separation, about maybe 6-7 car lengths back to the cars behind, but still this pack continues to rumble on. 37 cars now split by just under 5 seconds. One casualty, though, is Scott Holmes. We missed what happened to him, but already one car has fallen by the wayside, and Scott Holmes actually had a technical issue, so not even an incident has dropped him out of this race. That's just the unfortunate things that sometimes happen with online racing.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the mimicking of mechanical failure that the sim doesn't have. That can just be some of your technical hardwares that you have on the sim side. As we continue to watch here, looks like the high line here losing a little bit of energy, little bit of momentum. Just a hair, though. Not enough to massively impact anything, but just enough to have them slip back into second or third.
You see the two RSR teammates maybe working together to try and feed a little bit of draft to one another. Valicus is going to go down low, as on debut he sits in a rather comfortable 15th spot. In front of him now he'll have his teammate. You see all 3 of the green and black menacing machines sitting in a comfortable position. Up front they continue to go back and forth. The timing tower doesn't know how to keep up with everything that's going on, but at least now it does look as though Matt Taylor has been able to clear himself on Paul Jenkins. If he wants to go up high, he could, but the teammates all stacked in line, 1, 2, and 3 on the inside. I don't think they'll go up high just yet.
No, I think that lower line is proving out well for them, and Jenkins giving them plenty of room. Now, that is the sign of a heads-up, respectful driver. As we get later on into this race, watch for Jenkins to move that line down a little bit more and try to pinch off the corners and prevent them from running up the track. But right now, there's really no need to be that aggressive quite yet.
On board with O'Brien, as you see the hand inputs here. As a former driver in this series, how aggressive can you be with the steering, DJ, through some of these corners? Because in the IndyCar yesterday, we did see a lot of seesawing at the wheel, the car wibble-wobbling its way as it got a little bit loose. A lot calmer, a lot smoother through there as Fowler's almost up the track into Forsyth.
Well, you have got to be very, very smooth. There's an old adage that I was taught when you first came into this series that the knuckles on the sim, you don't want your knuckles to really go past the first rivet. The smoother you can be through these cars, the less steering input you give, that's less tire wear, that's less abrasion, and that's less tire slip coming through the corners. And all that means is you are going to be able to go faster for longer. Ooh, that was a little sketchy there for the 20.
Yeah, he's getting down to that white line, and I don't know if he's clipping the apron potentially where the banking meets the apron itself, or if he's just getting a little bit loose, but not looking as comfortable as he was a little bit earlier. We are halfway through the fuel window, so the balance of the car might have changed very slightly as well. The one thing that has not changed, if anything, it's closing in. 37 cars now split by 4.3 seconds. Pit road here, it's something that we saw yesterday, DJ. You have to come down on the access road, so you have to be low, coming in towards turn 3 and commit early. It means it's a lot less risky out of turn 4 trying to get your car slowed down, but it means if you're up on the high line and trying to pit, you have got to find a way to slot yourself down inside.
Yeah, and watch for some of these drivers on the high line once we move into around that 39-40 lap window to try to be able to get themselves down. They may sacrifice some track position in order to be able to do that in Arjuna. It's a very, very tricky pit entry. I can tell you from experience, it wasn't caught on the broadcast, thankfully, but a certain someone had a spin going down pit lane last year and somehow still managed to end up on the podium.
Oh, you shouldn't have told me that. I'm not going to let you forget it for the rest of the evening. Chris Lanini, though, goes to the middle as he tries to clear both Michael O'Brien on the inside. And I believe that's Tyler Graf outside as they're 3 wide for 5th position. Graf in that 98 machine runs up high, ripping that outside groove, using the banking to arc himself off the corner. Craig Forsyth, got a great run as now Lanini's going to slot himself up high. I'm trying to figure out how many cars are split by a second. It's about 15. This is great. 24 laps, and I'm knocking on the wood around me, hoping I don't put a commentator's curse down on these drivers, DJ. They are putting on a show to kick things off.
Yeah, they certainly are, and you saw that a little bit of a restrained regression there from Craig Forsyth. He thought about diving it down to the middle of Paul Jenkins, making this 3 wide, but recognizing that he's in a good spot right now. You're up in this leading group. Do not go too aggressive too early. Let the race come to you and let those aggressive moves fall in the last 30 or so laps.
Let's talk about your movers and shakers. There are cars that are 5-6 positions, includes Chris Fowler, Chris Lanini. Your biggest loser, at least for the time being, is Jim Herrick, who after qualifying up there in the top 5, a great showing on debut, is being cycled out of the top 15 and in fact is trying to hold on to 16th with Adam Frazier, but losing that battle at least for the time being. Rodrigo Munoz has also lost 8 positions, not an ideal start for him. Razmas, after being involved in the championship fold last year, he's lost 6 to start things off, but we know that Razmas will be consistent over the course of the season, no matter where we're racing, short ovals, speedways, the intermediates, or even street courses or places like the Hungaroring. Expect Razmas to be in the fold. Looking at the schedule, DJ, I mean, you and I chatted a couple of days ago about what we're looking forward to here. Hungaroring and the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, 2 new road courses to the series. 2 very different road courses to the series, but both are immensely challenging no matter what car you're in.
Exactly. One that really puts a high emphasis on top-line speed, being able to get that launch off of the corner very well in the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, and then the Hungaroring, which is really just a track that is so utterly technical that I think is really going to showcase some of the best drivers here on the roadside. I'm very much looking forward to those 2, Arjuna.
Does it make you wish a little bit that you weren't up here in the commentary booth? You were still down there and doing some racing?
Not necessarily, because I know for a fact around the Hungaroring I would probably be in the wall by about lap 3. So I'm happy to be up here calling it.
You started your season off, it couldn't have gone any better on the podium, but unfortunately, and I hate to say it, it was downhill from there, but also a testament to the quality of racing that we see here. The yellow flag flies for the first time this season, 29 laps into this race, and that looks like about 8 cars that were mixed up in that one. That's the RSR by Butt Kicker car that's upside down on somebody else, and the caution is out for the first time today.
Oh, looks like a little bit of over-aggression there in the back. Potentially, we'll have to pull up a replay and figure out exactly what went wrong here. As you said, oh, just a little bit of a tap, I think, drifted up. The 23 did there, and that just sent everything off into a domino effect.
Let's see if we can get a better look from up above, and we'll go super slow-mo as well. So slow this one down and see what happens. It looks like maybe just sliding up the track was that 23 car. Now, Valukas is a name I know from the road courses more than anything. He's got some experienced teammates to help him out, but I wonder if maybe his first time in... Oh, he flips over a car there as well. His first time racing this machine on an oval has caught him out. We'll try and pick up another replay of what happened, because one car into the fray, where did the rest of the cars get mixed up? Because there was a couple more that I think Luke Daniels, for example, he got mixed up in that one. We'll see if we can jump on board with some of these drivers.
Here we are right now on board. Oh, nowhere to go for Luke Daniels. Just a hapless passenger there as Valiokos was spinning out in front of him. Very, very tragic there for him. Jumping back here to Brett Accord. This is another driver that looked like he got caught up in it. You can see the smoke starting to play. Oh, and that was a separate incident entirely.
Looked like one car checking up a little bit better than another one, and the risk sometimes when you're getting to the scene of an incident like that. Rolling off a pit lane, though, the entirety of the field, of course, given that we're only, 10 laps away from the first cycle of green flag stops, will work their way down. 38 now likely becomes 31. Lionel Kalisto, I don't think I saw him getting necessarily tangled up in the initial incident, but he is still on pit road after about 30-odd seconds. Luke Daniels, Brett Accord, of course, we saw their onboard perspectives. Danny Roberts, Valiokos, and Schofield, the other machines that have what it looks like to have a significant amount of damage repairs that are ongoing.
All right, and now, Arjuna, this is going to set up a very interesting rest of the race if we continue to stay in these long green flag runs. Pitting here at about 10 minutes before the expected pit window, that opens up our next pit cycle at about lap 71. You take that out to another pit cycle, and it's going to put us at about lap 110. And so that means that we're going to have some drivers that maybe start to think about trying to eke out as much as they can and minimize the stops here. If they get another yellow, a couple drivers catch this right, we could see some alternating pit strategies that makes things very interesting.
Now, it's not like what we saw yesterday with the Indy cars, where it was basically a fuel mileage race to the end, where you could cut out an entire pit stop. We are likely, though, to see, like DJ mentioned, some fuel saving. In fact, Richie Hearn has come in for a second time under the caution, I think just trying to get a little bit more fuel into his car. I don't hate that approach. Gets you topped up and able to think a little bit less about fuel saving. Lights are still on the pace car, at least one more lap under caution.
Yeah, if you're able to, if you're in the back of the field, there's no real harm in coming in and just trying to get that little bit of fuel. It's what worked for Rodriguez last year at Iowa. That's how he was able to go on and win the races. He was able to come in and do that exact same strategy that we're seeing Richie apply right now. That's how he was able to eke out those couple of extra laps there.
No matter who wins this race, we are looking at a first-time winner at Homestead. Jason Galvin won the inaugural race here to kick off Retro Series and its competition. Adam Blocker, the king of Lionheart, then in Season 2, came out on top by just over 3.5 hundredths of a second. Alex Saunders won under caution the year after that. The Sandman by 200ths. Sage Karam last year by 200ths as well. 5 years, 5 winners. We'll see a 6th born out of this time. In terms of your pole sitter, where does he sit right now? Paul Jenkins will start in second, so not the worst place in the world to be in. He was looking fairly comfortable up on that outside groove.
Yeah, he looked like he was just settling in, Arjuna. He wasn't trying to push at all. He was comfortable up on that high line. And remember, that high line will save a little bit of tire wear. Now, Homestead's not a track that really eats up your tires, but if you've just got a little bit more grip at the end, that can pay massive, massive dividends when we get into these last 20 laps of the race.
Well, the first caution is in the books. It has claimed the lives, or the cars at least, of 3 different drivers. The great thing about going virtual racing is there's no damage bill to be paid. There's no hospital bills to be paid either. You continue to truck along. But here we go, back racing in the HyperX Miami 200. Matt Taylor leads the way. A bit of a stack up on the edge of the top 10. Looked like Dustin Wardlow and maybe Isaac Snyder getting very close to one another. But single file restarts will mean that the field will stretch out before it will pack back up in. Here we go once more.
Yeah, now Paul Jenkins a little bit in the catbird seat here. This is the first time we've really seen him be able to take lane choice, and he's going to opt to run high. Not nearly as high as we saw him running earlier in that first stint, but he still likes that momentum line, and it is paying dividends there for him as he is starting to close in on Taylor as they enter one.
There's the view of how the pack is broken up right now. Remember, 37 odd cars split by 4 seconds. just before the caution flew. Now it's 31, split by 6.5 seconds. So it will take a couple of moments, take a couple of laps before we get back to the 2-wide formation, up and down through the field. Don't want to fight too hard either if you're back in the pack right now, because that's just going to put you in a position to lose out. Still squabbling side by side. Craig Forsyth has a great view of the action. George Anzaldo looking to get down low on Chris Lanini. Two cars that have worked their way into the top 10. Anzaldo makes the inside work. He's up into 4th spot.
Nice job there for George. He likes to run that slider line a little bit. He and I were actually trading those lines last year on our charge back up through the field. It's a very effective strategy. If you know you've got a partner that you can run with, you dive the car deliberately a little bit lower than you would. You let it walk back up, and what you can do is leapfrog each other up on the straightaways to try to gain some momentum on the drivers ahead of you.
Just on the outskirts of the top 10. A couple of battles starting to pick up in intensity. There you can see they're almost 3 abreast for, I believe it's 19th and 20th positions. That's Trevor Malone and Adam Frazier. We're watching, though, as David Siraz on the back of Isaac Snyder, Tyler Graff and Chris Fowler slinking back and forth amongst themselves. Up front, though, Paul Jenkins riding that momentum on the outside line. I think Matt Taylor lost the lead. Paul Jenkins retakes the point.
Oh, yes, he does. A good move and a power move there around the outside for George Anzaldo as well. He's going to try to move on Craig Forsyth here a little bit. Anzaldo looking very, very feisty in these early stages.
Didn't really see much of him to get this race underway, but the series organizer now gets his game face on. Almost 3 wide as the Candyman elects to back out of that one for now. Still, Paul Jenkins and Matt Taylor trading the lead back and forth. I believe it was Taylor at the line this time by. And it's closing, but it's very, very slowly. A bit of separation between various packs. We might see a little bit of lap traffic play a factor if we get a nice little green flag run under our belt. And what does a green flag run mean? Green flag pit stops. We've talked about the difficulty of slowing yourself down and getting to the lane. The other thing to consider as the Candyman again looks to the middle before backing out of that one is no pit limiter on these cars, DJ.
Yeah, you have got to be very, very careful with your right foot not to be too over-aggressive with it. We've seen many a times drivers fall afoul of it. There is a little bit of wiggle room on either side of the limiter, kind of an understanding that you can't be absolutely perfect, but drivers have to be very, very careful of it.
Intensifying up front, but still plenty of battling back in the pack. We're not watching the battle for 6th. We're watching the battle currently for 4th, where George Anzaldo is trying to hold on as Jenkins and Taylor in front of him continue to squabble amongst themselves. Also looking at Will Gibson, Ricky Harden, Jim Herrick, as here comes the Candyman. Craig Forsyth has been disposed of in this battle at the top 4. The Candyman ducks down low and might even be able to get the run off the corner. Jenkins squeezing Taylor like you were talking about slightly earlier. He's finally starting to get those elbows very slightly out.
Yes, he is. I'm a little surprised he's doing it this early, but I think just a little bit of frustration here. Definitely pinching a little bit on corner exit. That is what I talked about, the difficulty of running that lower line, is the car's going to want to drift up the track until the track has fully been rubbered in, so he's got to be a little bit careful there, and by doing that, what he is actually making Taylor do is back out of the throttle a little bit and lose a little bit of momentum down on that low line.
Wardlow has cleared Anzaldo at least for a moment. Using that momentum that the outside will give you all the banking here at Homestead, Anzaldo will power himself back into position. Let's talk very quickly about your track conditions. Yesterday we were racing under the light, so it was a cooler day overall, not just in the air but on the track itself. But because we're racing just into the sunset here, it is looking as though the 40 degrees of track temperature are going to wear the tires a little bit more. More interestingly, though, is the 14-kilometer-an-hour gusts of winds that will be pushing these cars around the track.
Yeah, and these cars not nearly as aero-dependent as their bigger brother Dallara IR18s. Obviously, the majority of the downforce in these cars generated by the ground effect, the Venturi tunnels underneath the cars. But there is still some topside aerodynamics that they're going to have to worry about, and they can be very effective.
The gap now is up to 1 second between 11th and 12th. They're still technically within the drafting range, but if the lap times continue to trend the way they are, they will start to lose ground to this lead pack. A peloton starting to form. as almost 3 wide for the lead. The Candyman has gone up high, and he seems to have found just something in that car. No in-car tools, no front and rear ARB or weight jacker. It's a fixed setup. It's all about your 2 hands and your 2 feet.
Indeed, the only thing you can adjust in these cars is the brake bias. And when you are driving a super speedway like this, there is absolutely no braking, Arjuna.
I hope not. Although, having said that, when you think of super speedway racing in stock cars, the thing that I still struggle to do is and it's something you hear a lot in the real world, is you don't lift out of the throttle. Instead, you drag the brake. You keep the engine in that right rev range to get the maximum power from it, and you've got to learn how to do that. It's very much a skill and something you've got to practice. Jenkins is clear though now for the lead. Robert Mikes looks to try and find a way down the middle, but he's going to get just ushered back very slightly. Taylor now still hanging that low line and working strong. Doesn't look as though the low line is gripping up as much as maybe we thought it would about a third into this race.
No, I still think you're going to need a little bit more time. Look for it to come in maybe at about lap 60 or so. There you can see the drift up there from Taylor, that lack of grip on corner exit. He's now going to try to pick up a little bit of draft here from Jenkins, maybe try a move down low, but Jenkins able to carry that momentum along well. And this little triangle there, this diamond of drivers right here, Jenkins, Taylor, Mikes, and Wardlow, doing a really good job of just kind of figuring each other out, reading what the other driver is doing, trying to recognize if there are any weaknesses that they can exploit.
And going back to what you said under caution, it's not like if you're any of those 2 cars out front, you're doing much fuel saving. The car that may be best positioned to do that might be Fowler, who's down on the inside, and Zaldo's not in a bad position, but always when you're up high, you're running the longest distance around an oval, so you are going to be compromised very slightly there. Now it must be noted as well, the gap is starting to come down. 12th has caught the pack in front. Isaac Snyder in 15th, still about 8/10 back from those in front of him, but that draft is playing a factor. He might be able to close as things start to stall out very slightly. Look at how close they're getting. Robert Mikes very much now has to watch out. If he goes too low, he'll pinch down on Chris Fowler. He goes too high, he's going to wash up into Dustin Wardlow.
Yes, and you can see that big wiggle he keeps having coming out of turn 2 in particular. That is, I think, a result of exactly trying to prevent what you were talking about, Arjuna, making sure the car's not going to pinch or push there. Just very, very careful, and he's doing a great job to keep up the momentum. It's really, really hard to keep that car pointed in a straight line when the rear end starts to slide around on you like that.
Where do you want to be in this lead pack, DJ? Up low, down low, or up high?
Personally, I want to be in the middle right now. That is going to be the best area because there is a little bit of side draft that does exist in these cars, and you can really, really take it out. I know I was part of a charity race last year where we were racing at Daytona, and the best way to go was not to leapfrog, it was to side draft with people around. So you can definitely get a little bit of that side draft. I think Paul Jenkins right here, I like what I'm seeing out of Robert Mikes. I like this sort of heads-up play from him, and that middle line is the safest line.
Do remember progressive banking here over the 1.5 miles of the Homestead Miami Speedway. 18 degrees down low, up to 20 degrees on the top of the racetrack. Mikes is loose once more. How did he hold onto that car? He will slide back in this lead group, but that was almost disaster once more. And look at him carry the speed into turn 1.
That is just absolutely chucking that car into there. No big wiggle coming out of turn 2, and now it looks like Matt Taylor, Dustin Wardlow going to try to go into that middle spot there, and he's going to pull out ahead as Jenkins goes high.
Is that getting your dessert a little bit too early in this race? 53 laps about to be in the books. New race leader Dustin Wardlow powers himself to the front, and in that middle line will slide up in front of Paul Jenkins. Well, we're getting to that point once more. 23 laps on the stint. It was lap 30 of the race where that first caution flew. Will we see that happen once more? You can see the lead pack. They're the ones fighting hard. Everyone else starting to get the memo. Let's single file this thing out. Let's close up to those in front. The top 28 now split by 5 seconds. They've broken away from Hugo Gallas, Cristobal Valenzuela, and Rodrigo Munoz. I wonder if the 3 cars back in the pack are maybe just waiting for, I don't want to say it's inevitable, but a potential crash with how close these guys are getting.
Well, that's a very heads-up play to do. If there is a big crash, you want to give yourself plenty of room to slow down. You don't want to be close up behind it. And with as close as these guys are running right now, let's say if somebody just barely tips into another driver, that is going to send off an absolute catastrophic wreck all through the field, and we could see 6, 7, 8 cars get taken out. So that could be a little bit of big brain thinking there from guys like Gallus and Venezuela.
Big brain time, but we still got plenty of time to go. Maybe it's the fuel strategy, the fuel game that might ultimately enable a driver to enter HyperX victory lane. Matt Taylor's now the one that's getting loose down on the low line of the track. Blocks off the momentum of Bobby Mikes in that number 17 white and red car. Paul Jenkins running still now around the outside, and there it is! Wardlow gets loose, snaps himself around, and that is chaos and carnage, not for the first time today, and there is still wrecking as they try and navigate their way through the scene of the accident.
Oh my goodness gracious, Arjuna, you said that was a snap. I don't know if there's an adjective that describes something harder than a snap, but that happened in a fraction of a second. That car just completely losing grip and spearing up into the wall.
Watch the aftermath here. Still a little bit of pogoing going from some of these cars. Now let's watch, though, as they come through the corner. This is out of turn 4. You can already see Wardlow is really wringing the neck of that car. Watch the hands. Let's jump on board with Dustin Wardlow and just watch as he enters turn 1, a little bit sideways, a little bit loose, and once that car is sideways, there was nothing he can do. The engine expires while he's in midair. Couple of cars managed to get on through. I don't even know the rest of the cars that went and crashed there. I think Craig Forsyth mixed up in that one. Luis Gonzalez Nunez as well, potentially George Anzaldo. Grab a couple more looks at this one and try and pick apart the action.
Yeah, and you can see that slow slide start to develop. It's very common to see in these Lotus 79s. There it is. He tries to catch it. It comes back around on him again, and then he puts a little bit too much into it. There, oh, the collection of George Anzaldo right there sends him flipping up into the air. You have one of the Vector by RSR drivers going completely underneath Wardlow there.
That secondary impact is sickening, and that is how Luis Gonzalez Nunez got mixed up in that one. We've cycled a little bit further back, and we'll just ride around with him. He was one of the cars that was back in the pack, minding his P's and Q's. Comes across the scene of the accident. Remember, these cars are going 280, 290 kilometers an hour. There's not much time to slow down once you see the puff of smoke in front of you. He comes down low, you can see going up high, and what's going to happen here? He gets minding his own business and gets absolutely murdered into the corner. Not the first time we've seen that today.
No, and that can happen there when you're trying to just check yourself up a little bit. Let's watch from the outboard shot here to see what happened behind him. It almost looked like somebody just didn't. Yes, there we have the cars flipping.
Jim Herrick.
I'm not. Herrick just didn't recognize that Luis was slowing down to that level and just plowed into the back of him.
Well, that's going to be day done for a couple more cars. Add to the tally George Anzaldo, Dustin Wardlow, Luis Gonzalez Nunez. Questions remain about Chris Staples being able to roll back onto track. Craig Forsyth is back after a 41-second damage repair. Paul Jenkins got mixed. I thought Jenkins might have just been able to squeak his way through. But Paul Jenkins had 35 seconds in the pit stall. Typical fuel stop, around 6, 7, 8 seconds. So looks like the curse of pole position has struck down on Paul Jenkins here to kick things off in 2022.
It certainly has, and you hate to see that from somebody that was able to run so well up front. But Arjuna, look who is in P3 right now, up 31 positions.
Wow.
Ricky Harden.
Well, his nickname is Hard in the Wall. Let's hope that's now not how his race is now going to go from here. You can see it on the side of his car on the rear wing as well. Hard in the Wall. Comical moment during the HyperX Indy 500 qualifying last year in the IndyCar series, where Ricky Harden's doing his qualifying run, and guess what happened?
Went right into the wall?
Hard in the wall. I love a good pun. I have to be careful sometimes with the puns that I choose because they can get me in trouble, especially if a certain Paul Smith, the man in the hat, the flat cap, is watching. But it's late in the UK. I think we're safe, at least for the time being, from him. So, 38 became 37, became 33. Now, I believe, has become 26. You have a couple more cars onto pit lane once more. Paul Jenkins, Craig Forsyth, Hugo Gallas, I think, coming back down maybe for a couple more seconds of damage repair, maybe topping off the tank once more. Jim Herrick has been stationary for 90 seconds. Don't think he's coming back out. Chris Staples is 2 laps down, but is circulating. Gonzalez, Nunez, Wardlow, and Zaldo joining those potentially retired from this race. What does this do to the fuel strategy?
It pretty much equalizes it, Arjuna. What this means is they should be able to go to about lap 100 on this current tank of fuel. Everybody comes in at about lap 100. Getting to lap 133 should be a walk in the park.
So, the fuel game has changed around. Now it might just be about minimizing your time on pit lane. Single file once more. The second caution of the day is about to come to an end. The teammates lead the way. Matt Taylor and Chris Fowler 1 and 2. Matt Taylor running a little bit of an interesting line there, but we're back racing in the HyperX Miami 200. This is a much closer restart to what we saw about 30 laps ago.
Yes, it is. A little bit of a look down to the inside for Ricky Harden, but Fowler shutting the door. Harden going way up the track. I think he may have drifted up there, and that's going to separate him out.
Yellow flag is back out. Who has been mixed up here? Ooh, there's a car upside down on its roof, bouncing back up and over. I think that was Cristobal Valenzuela. Yes, it is. Gary Godso, the other car mixed up in that. Cautions breed cautions, and that's what we have just seen. Oh, and I think potentially Gary Godso loses that by himself, and Valenzuela is the one coming up on the scene of the accident this time by and can't lock it down. Right on board with the number 3.
All right, so here he comes into the corner. A little bit of a blink there ahead of him. Brings it in. Tries to just drive the car down the track a little bit. And Godso in that Gordon Johncock liveried car, just absolutely losing it. And then you were right there, Valenzuela, just a hapless passenger.
Right on board with the 33 machine, who, remember, right before that caution was riding in the back and trying to stay out of Trouble's way. This time by, Trouble comes looking for him, and yeah, not much you can do. That is the reality of racing. Sometimes it is just not your day. We're going to see now a number of cars duck their way back down onto pit lane, but most of the field is going to stay out. Mike Rasmas, one of the few cars that's going to be coming down to pit, I believe. Interesting call from him because he was up there in the top 10, and indeed, he's the only one in the top 20 is cycling their way down onto pit lane. There's a car rolling very, very slowly. Who is that? Oh, no, they're back up to speed now.
All right, so getting that field re-racked. It looks like Rasmus Hearn and Hugo Gallas also all coming down pit lane as well. Maybe just a little bit of a top-up on fuel to see if they can inch out a little bit more.
Let's talk a little bit about the history here at Homestead Miami Speedway. When it was first built, very, very different to what it is now. Initially, it was mostly flat, very similar to what we see at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a 4-turn rectangular oval. Incidentally, both designed by the same man, Carl Fisher. Because it was shorter, though, it didn't have the same type of racing that we've come to know and love at the Brickyard. So, as a result, in, 1997, it was reprofiled, and now we have this facility that has hosted many a stock car championship finale. Of course, now doesn't hold that distinction. It's moving around a lot more. Most recently held at Phoenix, where we'll go racing in a couple of weeks' time. What a facility it is, though. It's a shame that the stock cars don't run here anymore, because this is the track, especially in those big, heavy cars, DJ, where if you understand how to run up high all the way with that wall, you can see there the amount of black marks on that wall. The ability to run up high can win you a championship.
Yeah, it certainly can, and I, for one, was very upset that they stopped running here because I always loved watching those stock cars run this place around. It is a, frankly, unique track in the field of intermediate ovals. It is a 1.5 miles, but it's not like one of the D ovals that you've seen. Used to be the mini Indy format is what they used to call it, obviously changed to its current configuration. And Arjuna, it seems like every time we come here, pretty much no matter what series you bring, it always brings some fantastic racing.
Oh, it does. And no matter if it's sunset, afternoon, night, always just manages to deliver. We had a great race here in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship where it's an open setup, so, you know, a little bit different, but still some great racing. It's not easy to pass. You have to set that up, and fantastic place to race. A couple more cars ducking back onto pit lane. The lights go out, so we'll be back to green with 65 laps in the books. Go back to one thing that we saw on the replay with the incident for Gary Godso. Richie Hearn. Now, we love Richie. He is a fantastic guy. He's commentated on some Lionheart races in the past as well. But he's a man that has his own technical issues from time to time, and you were saying how hard it is to race with someone who is blinking in and out, especially when you're trying to go wheel to wheel.
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing, and it gets into your head because instead of just focusing on your line and how to get past, you start thinking about, oh God, where are they going to appear? What's going to happen? What's going to happen next? And it can really throw you off, and I would not be surprised there if that is what threw Gary off and that's what caused his incident.
Remember, we're on the same tires that we started this race on because Bias Ply designed to go a full race, even with the slightly higher loads on an oval compared to what you might expect to see on a road course. We're not going to change tires. It is fuel only for the 133 laps at this HyperX Miami 200. So, cautions breed cautions. One has already led to another. Will we get a couple more laps under our belt? It was proceeding on a cycle. 30 laps for caution 1, 30 laps for caution 2. But we're racing once more. The teammates get a good jump. Again, it's a lot more packed up than we saw in that initial restart. Here comes the moves. An RSR by Butt Kicker Car looking down low.
Looking down low, trying to find everything, but as you said, very, very spaced out, relatively single file here all the way around. A little bit of action starting to develop in the back as these drivers try to figure out what lanes they're going to want to like to run here.
We are past or getting to, I should say, the halfway marker. This time past, officially going to be halfway done. Rodriguez is getting past Trevor Malone in the 34 machine on the edge of the top 10. Again, it's splintered up. This is kind of what you expect. Rodrigo Munoz, by the way, is down on pit lane, so not sure if there's potentially damage for the number 09 machine, but he was on the lead lap, so a bit of a surprising call. Craig Forsyth has just rolled himself off a pit lane this time by. So plenty of things happening on pit lane. Two teammates out front, though. They've got some separation. 7/10 between second and third. This is what Fowler and Taylor would want to see. But how easy is it going to be for them, DJ, to run away?
Well, I think what they may want to start employing here is a little bit of a leapfrog strategy. Let one by and then let the other by. Almost throw a little bit of a slider line back and forth to see if that can do anything. Now, I say that, but it almost doesn't look like they need to do it because they've already got a second gap all the way back to Harden in third.
There you see the battle we're watching up on your screen is with Isaac Snyder and Chris Lanini just in front of him. Tyler Graff and Robert Mikes squeezing each other all the way to the outside wall. That gap continues to go up. Last time by, they were 3/10 quicker than second position. It's looking great for MadWorks Esports to get this 2022 season underway. Tyler Graff, well, a little bit of a chop down low. Robert Mike saw it coming and was able to let off the throttle, but it now opened the door for Chris Lanini to look down low. Isaac Snyder gets bottlenecked. They'll be 3 wide across the line.
All right, they're going to be 3 wide. Let's see if those lines hold. It looks a little bit like Snyder's just opting to hold back there a little bit. Wants to follow behind Robert Mikes to just pick up a little bit of the draft. Doesn't want to go too aggressive too early.
Still a long way to go in this race. Already had 3 cautions. Remember, the minimum that we've seen over the 5 years of this series in prior has been 4. So if we can go green from here, would be a new marker to match what we saw yesterday. But again, even if we get another caution, it's been some fantastic wheel-to-wheel respectful racing. Plenty of action up front as now Looks like Ricky Hardin is going to start falling back. Turn the attention to the top 15, where Will Gibson, Adam Young, and Alex Guyon are really starting to intensify things here. Now, they are losing track of the cars in front. I'm not sure what's happening. That initial restart, maybe we've seen a couple of cars get some damage since then, because the lap times and the gaps don't seem to be closing in the way that I'd expect right now.
No, not at all. Taylor Fowler just absolutely running away here from Tyler Graff. That gap is up to 1.3 seconds. That's effectively out of draft range, so they are able to run a race unto themselves.
What a way it has been to kick off this 2022 Lionheart Retro Series presented by Next Level Racing. Still half the race to go. We got plenty of contenders still in the mix here. We're watching the HyperX Miami 200 live from the Homestead Miami Speedway. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome back to RaceSpot TV and round one in your 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. We're live from the Sunshine State and the Homestead Miami Speedway in what has been an electric race already with just under 80 laps in the books. One final cycle of stops upcoming, plenty more action to come. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined this year by the one and only DJ Clark, who 12 months ago did take a podium here. Talked about how he also had some issues on pit lane. We'll be hoping that if we get a green flag cycle, our competitors don't fall afoul of that one. Been an interesting race, DJ. We've had 3 cautions so far. The third one very quickly after that second one. But now it is starting to break up. The top 2 are working together, pulling away the rest of the field, trying to close on the teammates out front.
Yeah, they're swapping positions back and forth to really be able to pull themselves away, and there you can see that gap starting to develop. Tyler Graff in third place. He's been able to pull it down to about 1 second here, but he's going to want to try to get it in a little bit closer if he wants to really get that full draft, and Fowler and Taylor are going to be doing everything they can do to make sure that doesn't happen. They want to walk away with this in a team way.
Fuel window is about 40-odd laps, so in about 10 laps or so, we'll be good to make it to the end. We might see some drivers think about coming in, but the thing to remember is this car is a rocket ship on low fuel, DJ. You want to run it as dry as possible, And that's why we typically see drivers really wait until the last possible minute before coming down to pit lane.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they want to do. And the one counter to that is the car does get very loose. It gets very squirrely when it's on light fuel. It handles completely differently than it does on a full tank of fuel. And so you may see some drivers that try to counteract that a little bit, get a little bit worried about how it's going to feel on a lower tank, and decide to wait.
So you've got the top 8 split by 2 seconds right now. There's a bit more separation than between Michael O'Brien and Chris Reagan to the tune of about 2.5 seconds. Then a bit more separation between 12th and 13th. There's plenty of action up and down the field, even though it's split up. And, well, yellow flag flies once more. Now, who's been involved in this one? Is that a solo car incident? Looks like Adam Young in the 12 has had an issue, and he is straight away taking the tow back to pit lane.
Yes, he is. Let's go back to check out the replay here to see what happened. That's Young there in the center of your screen. Be a little bit defensive, it has to be said. Did he get a little bit of a bump? I think he did, Arjuna.
Now, the question was, who was the other car? We didn't get a great look at it. We'll try and zoom a little bit more in. Looks like one of the rookies, potentially. New liveries for this year, so we're going to have to take a couple of races, to get used to that. It's a 91 of Brian Hoffman, and I mean, it's fair to say that that was a bit of a reactionary block from Adam Young, but if we ride on board here, I think we'll see that maybe Hoffman just sends it a little bit too deep into the corner, maybe expecting Young to track out wide.
Yeah, I think you're right there. He was expecting him to track out wide, want a little bit more of a slider line that you see typically around here, and just a bit of a miscommunication there. And okay, this is interesting now. We've got some alternate strategies firing off for pit stops. Your leaders opting to stay out, but guys like Rodriguez, Lanini, Rigney, Reagan, Bobby Mikes, all coming down pit lane.
Now, I'm trying to do the math. Can you make it from here? I don't think you can. I think unless you're David Rodriguez, who still is under investigation for having a magic fuel tank and a fuel-growing tree in that car, I don't think you're good on fuel. We'll get back racing, what, lap 88, 89, somewhere in that threshold. You're pushing about 44 laps on the tank of fuel. That's a big ask.
It's a big ask, but what I think these guys are banking on is maybe 2 more cautions to be thrown. If that happens and they're able to save fuel under yellow, I think you should be able to do it. You gain back about a lap and a half of fuel per caution period, so they just might be able to eke it out. And so we're going to have to watch in the back of the field here. I don't expect these guys who just came down pit lane to be necessarily fast, but I expect them to be smart and really, really careful on the throttle pedal.
Now, we should expect Chris Fowler, Matt Taylor, Tyler Graff, Isaac Snyder, Michael O'Brien, Mike Rasmussen, all in about 12, 13, maybe 14 laps time. Reminder as well, you can follow along with live timing powered by our friends at Timing 71. Follow the best in the real and virtual worlds of motorsports by heading to timing71.org, or to get direct access to today's race, go to racespot.wtf/Indy. So I'm trying to peek. Lights on the pace car are still on, so we'll be back to green with on lap 89. I think if you're David Rodriguez, you probably feel pretty good about your chances of making it. I don't know if you're the rest of the cars, if you feel so good.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Rodriguez is in the catbird seat, but the one problem's going to be is that he's going to have Rasmus right ahead of him, and Rasmus is going to be pushing. And as we said, these guys that just came out of pit lane, they're not going to want to push. They are not going to want to go for gold here. They're going to want to try to pull back a little bit and not really go for broke. So there is no other way of saying this, Arjuna. This is going to get interesting.
Are you someone that likes to gamble on strategy, or do you like to play it a bit more conservative?
I like to gamble. I like to see what I can do.
That's Isaac Snyder who's going to come in. I think this is smart. You waited until the final lap to come down and take your service. Yes, you're running around under caution. It's a lap or two of running under caution, but that might be half a lap of actual fuel that you now don't need to save. I like the call from Isaac Snyder. I like the call from Chris Lanini. Did look like a couple of damaged race cars onto pit road as well, but that might be heads-up driving from Isaac Snyder, part of the RSR by Butt Kicker Alliance. But we don't know if Isaac Snyder's as good a fuel saver as his teammate David Rodriguez.
We don't indeed, but we're about to find out if he is here as we get ready to go back to green at the end of this lap.
Oh, I love a good fuel mileage race. It's what we saw yesterday, albeit brought around by a 133-lap green flag run in your GSI Miami 200 to kick off the Lionheart IndyCar Series. We'll return in a couple of weeks' time to get the second season of the Lionheart Speedway Series underway as well. Last year that started at Twin Ring Motegi, but will start its campaign at the place where now all Lionheart sanctioned competitions get underway. It is still teammates out front, but it's a new face that will lead us to the green flag. Chris Fowler had a torrid run of luck in 2021. Can he win to kick off 2022? We're racing once more, and it's a good launch from Chris Fowler.
Yes, it is, but remember, Fowler and Taylor were able to build up a big gap beforehand, and now Tyler Graff is going to be right up behind their gearboxes, so this is going to be a different style of race out front unless those leading two are able to break away once again.
Bit of fighting just outside the top 10 as Robert Mikes squeezes his way past David Sirah for the race lead. They're side by side, but I don't think they're going to have that luxury of breaking away this time by. Tyler Graff, Michael O'Brien, Mike Rasmussen, all in close pursuit. Paul Jenkins is actually going to come back down onto pit road this time by. Not sure if there's an issue for the 35 car, but that will put him at least one lap down, maybe more if there's some potential damage to his machine. The gap between 7th and 8th is about 9/10 of a second. It includes two cars that crucially pit last time by. Mike Rigney, David Rodriguez looking like they are in a very good position.
And here's the other interesting thing. Mike Rasmus came in on lap 63, so he's got a little bit more fuel than Taylor, Fowler, and O'Brien up ahead of him, as well as Graff, so that could be a little bit of a wrench into the works as well.
This is where you want to be, if you ask me, at this point in the race. Even if we go green to the end, the reality is Taylor, Fowler, and company will need a much longer pit stop than David Rodriguez will need. So, if he can hold on to the draft, we know that cars on low fuel go fast. It's the simplest way to put it. Low fuel, fast car. If he can hold on to their coattails, David Rodriguez in a wonderful position, but there's a long way to go, and cautions will likely change the game.
Yeah, they most certainly will. As these cars get lighter, as we've said, they get twitchier, they get harder to handle, and so for some of these drivers, we may see them lose a little bit of control of the car. But as of right now, everything nice and calm. A little bit of too wide there in the back as we watch. That's one of the Lavoie Motorsports drivers working their way on by Ricky Hardin. That's Alex Goyon.
Guyon, Hardin, Malone, all in a pack. Trevor Malone not in the teal 34. That's a shame. Hopefully he gets that one sorted. That's a staple across of the Lionheart sanctioned competitions. Remember, 4 cautions so far ties the minimum count that we usually see. The most that we've ever seen is 6, and I don't necessarily think we're going to reach that marker today, especially given that what once was a 38 car field is down to 23 still on the lead lap, and 2 extra, 3 extra, maybe 4 extra still out there and running. They include Craig Forsyth, who is 16 laps down, but will come into pit road this time by. Chris Reagan leads the second pack. Gap 1.7 seconds to Rigney. Last time by, they were about a 10th slower. This time by, about a 10th and a half slower. So they're going to be losing track bit by bit. David Rodriguez is just about matching the time. Remember, he's got the draft assistance. Rigney's following in his footsteps as well. 18 minutes or so to go in this race. Hopefully, we don't get a caution, because it sets up a grandstand finish, and ultimately it might be between just 2 cars, Rodriguez and Rigney, for a potential photo finish, not for the first time here at the Homestead Miami Speedway.
Not at all, and I can tell you, Arjuna, I was just listening on board to some of these drivers in the lead pack, and I can tell you that there was some pretty serious lifting and coasting going into the corners. Drivers definitely backing it up and using the draft to their advantage to try to save just those last couple of micro gallons of fuel.
Not sure why Rodriguez and Rigney have lost the draft of the cars in front, but this is where they're now. I don't want to say it's the danger zone necessarily, but they're in trouble. A gap built by almost 4/10 last time by for those two. In danger potentially of getting reeled on in by Reagan and Guyon, who continue to go side by side in towards the corner. Reagan in that 19 is down low. Gap between 5th and 6th already up to 2 seconds, so they are shedding the time compared to those out front. This is what those top 5 wanted to see.
Yeah, and that is a result of those lower fuel loads. As you said, Arjuna, the car is just absolute rocket ships here. They are really, really able to pull ahead, and we're not seeing a lot of battling, crucially, out of this top 5. They know what's at stake. They do not want to spend their time running side by side. They want to try to pull away as much as possible.
Now, having said that, what we saw in that last cycle was that swap drafting might be effective. Now, the straights aren't as long, so it's harder to do that maybe as optimally as you can do it at some of the longer and larger tracks, but I'm not entirely surprised that that was a beneficial strategy. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier. Maybe the fuel saving has sprung to the forefront of the minds of some of these drivers. Matt Taylor, let's be honest, not in the ideal position to be saving any fuel right now.
No, not at all. You want to be back in the position of Fowler, O'Brien, or Graf here, as they are able to just back off on the throttle a little bit more and let the natural aerodynamics of following behind one of these cars pull you along.
Nice and steady at the front then. As, well, we're probably 2 laps, 3 laps away from seeing these cars duck their way onto pit lane, enter the top 10. Look at the mad scramble that's ongoing. Guyon is now single file as Reagan has managed to clear him, but Ricky Harden side by side with Lanini, with Schneider on the outside of Trevor Malone as they funnel their way into turn 1. Up almost 3 grooves, 2 grooves off the track was Ricky Harden down on the inside. Now, there was speculation that potentially a couple of cars that took damage repairs were taking tires. But given what we've seen from the pit stop times for the rest of the cars, DJ, we don't think that any of these guys have been taking tires.
No, the only 2 that I think may have taken tires out there, maybe Richie Hearn, maybe Brian Hotham, as they were some pretty late times there. But most of these leaders, the pit stop times are not conducive to full tire stops.
And again, we'll say it once more, bias ply tires. That's not something that you'd really see nowadays, but very much in the late 70s when this car was being campaigned around the globe. Something very much in vogue. 44 laps now for the cars out front. Matt Taylor still hugging himself down low. Now you have to commit there. Just when the white light clears itself, you have to get down to the access road that's inside of the grass through turn 3 and 4. So that will be the indication that cars are coming down to pit. They're not doing it just yet. The gap between Razmas and Rigney is up to a gargantuan 4 full seconds.
And that is exactly what these guys need. They want to try to build as much of a gap as possible before they dive down pit lane. But I've got to be honest, Arjuna, I can't imagine them going more than about 3 or 4 laps past this. Remember, the last time most of these guys came down pit lane was lap 58. That is going to put them at about 46 laps, and we thought the maximum was going to be about 40.
Something else to consider, though, is maybe why Rigney and Rodriguez are backing it down so hard is to join those cars behind. Maybe they need to do an almighty fuel save to make it to the end from where that caution came out. Maybe they know that you have to commit to the fuel saving early, DJ. You can't go at it late in the race and expect to make up the margin that you've lost out on.
Exactly. If you start thinking about fuel saving even a third of the way through your stint, you've already thought about it too late. You have to commit to fuel saving right from the drop of the green flag. You've got to be constantly on it. That's how Rodriguez got that win at Iowa last time out. That's how you have to do it.
Interestingly, Rodriguez and Rigney have swapped around. Rigney had led the duo for the first maybe 5-10 laps of the run. Now that RSR by Vector Machine. Not 5 car lengths clear, but here comes Reagan, here comes Guyon, here comes the rest of the cars that pitted under that last cycle of pit stops. We're working closer and closer to 20 laps to go. I'm trying to do the math in my head, and the thing that I always say, never trust a commentator's math, as it looks like Matt Taylor is going to come down to pit road all by himself, so the rest of the cars going a couple of laps longer. I'm trying to just figure out if these cars that we're watching can make it to the end. I think it's still close unless you're Isaac Snyder, who came down that additional time.
I have to agree with you.
Oh, yellow flag! Yellow flag! This changes everything, and it's Chris Fowler that is stricken in the middle of the track. Cars going up and down to try and find a way past him. Looks as though, no, I was about to say that car looks fairly okay. That is a crumpled up Lotus 79. And again, that changes everything.
It certainly does, and if everybody decides to be safe here on a splash and dash, it's going to help Matt Taylor out wonderfully. Let's watch here to figure out exactly what happened. Goes into the corner. Oh, he touched the white line. He got down too low and got onto the white line, and that sent that car spinning.
Now, did his teammate Michael O'Brien make any contact with him? Jump on board with the man for the land down under and watch here into turn number 1. It's going to be close. If he got away with that, I do not understand how.
Let's look from here. That car was already squirrely coming off of 4. Let's check again here. Coming up behind. There he loses it. He already lost it before he hit the white line.
Oh!
I think he got away with it.
That is the iRacing gods smiling down on Michael O'Brien, who will lead the field onto pit road. A couple of cars will stay out there. Don't hate the gamble. For Chris Reagan, I think, might be a little bold. Lanini and Snyder stay out along with him, but if David Rodriguez is coming in, that's the indication that maybe you had to come in to make it on fuel. What this does is it saves Matt Taylor, who was potentially going to lose out because he was out of the lead draft. He was going to be by himself and would have to build up momentum by himself. Matt Taylor will sit in 4th, not far away from being linked up with his teammate Michael O'Brien. It must be said, though, for the MadWorks esports team, all 3 cars were sitting pretty, potentially trying to lock out the podium. One's gone. It's now left to the 2 of Matt Taylor and Michael O'Brien to carry the torch forward.
Indeed, and this is really a position you want to be in if you were thinking about team strategy. You are on alternate strategies here, so if those drivers up front who are gambling here and staying out, if this doesn't work out for them, they still have the rear gunner in the form of Taylor that will be able to seize the flag and keep going forward.
So now let's try and pick up where everyone has cycled out. Richie Hearn is back onto pit lane this time by, I think, just maybe with his technical issue, trying not to pose a danger to others and cycle to the back and gather the points that he can. He will sit 19th, the last car on the lead lap. Reagan leads from Lanini, Snyder, and Taylor. Top 3 have pitted. Taylor the first car. Oh, top 3 have not pitted, excuse me. Taylor the first car with no concerns about making it to the end. Rodriguez, O'Brien, Razmas, Graf, Guyon, and Rigney complete the top 10. Robert Mikes, one car that we've seen be very strong today. He's down in 15th position. He's got a lot of work to do. Notice, though, how the field has been decimated. We started this race with 38. We're down to just 19 cars on the lead lap. Half the cars have fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, and that is what can happen here, Arjuna. It's very similar to the race that we saw last time. Not necessarily a caution fest, but just when they come out, they take out a lot of drivers.
Think we get another caution?
Flip a coin, I think, at this point.
Or get your Magic 8-Ball out as well. I think that's probably as accurate as the coin flip at this point in time. So, the lights should be out this time by? Yes, they are. So, we'll be back in racing with 21 laps to go. I like to put my co-commentators on the spot, DJ. I like to try and get them to make predictions. Throw one out there and see if it lands well.
You know, I'm going to be looking at David Rodriguez here. We have seen what he can do on a bit of an alternate fuel strategy. I like the lines he's been running this race. It's a bit of an underdog here right now with the likes of Taylor up ahead of him, but I like that number 10.
Rodriguez has a couple of victories to his name after starting his Retro Series campaign midway through the year. Only 8 races, but 2 wins, 5 top 10s. What can he do here after winning in a short track as well as a speedway? This would be his first intermediate win. The pace car will pull off, setting up a 21-lap dash. So the checkered flag here in the HyperX Miami 200. It's a new driver out front once more, and Reagan gets a good launch, and we're underway, hopefully, to see the checkered flag. They are packed up much more than they were from 10th on back, but a separation between first and second.
Yeah, that's a good jump there for Reagan. He's got about 0.5 of a second, 0.6 of a second, but Lanini's going to be trying to close that in. A couple too wide there in the back as this field scrambles its way forward.
Looks like just outside the top 10, you got Rigney, Fraser, and Malone all fighting for some real estate. There'll be 3 abreast as they come off the corner. Still 4/10. The gap out front. Ricky Hardin and Alex Guyon just at the front of your shot, leading the trio of 2 wide cars into the corner. Now the momentum builds up. Now the speeds intensify. The pressure is on. 20 to go. Will a driver get into victory lane for the first time in their Lionheart Retro Series career, or can someone like Taylor, someone like Rodriguez, maybe even someone like Mike Razmas stop that from happening? The gap is closed. It's a 10th between the top 2. Here comes Lanini to the inside.
Good move there. Remember, we said that low line rubbered in here a little bit more. He's going to be able to power his way on by, slide that car up the track. Perfect textbook move there for him.
And again, the question remains, how much fuel do the top 2, top 3 have to save? Snyder has cycled himself back into, well, it's going to be third in a second, might be in the good position to do some fuel saving. Reagan would have to do the most fuel saving of them all. Taylor looks down low, almost below the white line. He's the first car that topped off on fuel. He's got 2 cars between him and David Rodriguez. He's searching for a way through, but there's contact. Taylor's down to the inside. We might stay green because he's below the white line. And for MadWorks Esports, another car falls just like that.
Oh my goodness, and a little bit of incidental contact there between himself and Isaac Taylor. Taylor able to continue on, but I don't know how much damage there is to that number 10 machine.
We said it was going to intensify. We said the pressure was on. Pressure sometimes creates diamonds. Sometimes it also creates incidents. We'll grab a replay of what happened in a few moments' time, but at least for now, focus on what's going on. Still the top 3 yet to come down pit lane. Lanini leads from Snyder, Reagan. Rodriguez now feeling the pressure as Razmas pokes himself up high. This time by 16 to go.
All right, there's that other little bit of a look there from Reagan, trying to see if he can scare anybody off the line. Who's that running the high side there? That is going to be Isaac Snyder, I think. That was Rodriguez, I think, trying to go up and around there, as there is that replay of the incident earlier.
Let's grab the onboard with Snyder. I wonder if he actually gets a little bit loose there. I don't know if he's entirely in full control of the car. We'll spool it back just a little bit further and grab an onboard with Reagan, who would have been in the popcorn seat to see all of this happen. Watch as Snyder is arcing the corner. Remember, he's on lower fuel, so conversely, the car is quicker, but also twitchier. Oh, hard to tell. Very hard to tell. Race Control will take a look post-race.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the best way to do it. Trust Race Control's judgment there. But as we continue to go back up front, you see that almost 3 wide starting to develop there in the back. The 68 of Rasmus looking a little bit aggressive, running a super high line here, seeing if that can get him some good momentum.
Still the top 3, the cars that did not pit. Are they safe? How much are they worrying about their fuel number? Is someone in their ear coaching them through these final laps of this race to get to the checkered flag. Looks like you were right when we were talking about that low line rubbering in earlier in this race. They're painting that white line right now, and it just doesn't look as though they're committing to try and make the pass happen. More of the fighting is a little bit further back as Rodriguez tries to defend as he sees Razmas coming. He goes on the offensive outside of O'Brien.
And I think he's going to have at least a little bit of momentum there to carry him around. He'll at least be side by side with O'Brien as they make their way into 3 and 4. He's going to try to arc it there. You see a little bit of a pinch from the 10. That is there's the pinch. That's exactly what I was talking about. Arjuna trying to prevent any slide up the track.
This is where you will get physical, because you know it's hero or zero at this point in the race. Rodriguez gets the run, though. Remember, progressive banking. He's not going all the way up. He's basically running the middle of the track, which might also prevent any cars from being able to get some momentum on him, but he's stalling out for the time being. Might be behind him. That potentially Tyler Graf might be able to get some momentum. This time across the line, 11 laps to go. Still status quo remains. Top 8 have a bit of separation. 2 and a bit seconds back to David Sirois.
And the question still remains if these top 3 are going to be able to make it without another caution lap. I'm listening on board to Snyder's machine. Doesn't sound like he's lifting all that much out of it, so clearly he thinks he's got enough to make it to the end.
And this is where you can play the team game if you're being smart about it, because if you are Isaac Snyder, maybe you just roll through the corners a little bit slower, allow David Rodriguez on the outside to try and close up. That's where communication, constant communication that is only possible in the sim world might help you out. Rodriguez has a little bit more momentum, but stalls off the corner once more. O'Brien will hold on. This must be so frustrating if you're David Rodriguez. What do you do in that situation?
There's almost nothing you can do except try to be very aggressive and poke your nose down to the inside there of O'Brien. And O'Brien's not giving him any room to do it. Has a really good run through 1 and 2, though. Able to pick up a little bit of a draft there from Reagan directly ahead of him, but that car gets loose on corner exit.
Remember, you can do a little bit of side drafting as well, so maybe that's where O'Brien is able to stall out the progress of that 10 machine and allow him to hold on to what is 4th position right now. But time is running out. We're getting closer and closer to the margin where a caution would end the race. Lanini still leads in his 92 machine, has a race win to his name. It was back in Season 3 when we went short track racing in Iowa. Can he add to that collection to start off 2022? Well, 7 to go this time by. He's looking good. It looks like Reagan is now up high as O'Brien has managed to get underneath him. The Hornet's Nest is brewing, and they're starting to get feisty.
Yes, they are. Snyder looked like he had a little bit of a run there, but had to check himself up a little bit. O'Brien falling behind in line there a little bit with O'Brien running on the high side there. Noah's Ark directly behind.
Now they are 3 wide. Rodriguez has to go up high because otherwise he's going back. Oh, almost contact between O'Brien and Reagan. Rodriguez all the way up the track to mitigate any potential disaster. It is an 8-car breakaway fighting for the race lead. The reality is the leader is in control, but it could be any one of this 8 that emerges victorious.
And don't forget that Lanini, Snyder, and Reagan may be light on fuel. That could be a huge storyline here as we close in on these last 6 laps.
Looking rearwards from Lanini. His rear view mirrors are filled by Isaac Snyder, but he's not too concerned right now. Remember, the last couple of years we have seen photo finishes. As it stands right now, Isaac Snyder's going to have to get the hurry on to make it 3 in a row, with margins less than a quarter of a tenth of a second. That gap now, 1.5 tenths, as Reagan picks up more and more momentum around the outside.
It's starting to pay off in spades for him. He's going to try to now make the move on Isaac Snyder, having pretty much cleared Michael O'Brien. There they go, trying to pick up that little bit of the side draft, pinching O'Brien down. That run starts to blunt the momentum, though. It doesn't look like he's got it.
Feel the speed from these Lotus 79s. They're not designed to go racing on ovals, but they put on a show, and that's why, TJ, we love it. Oh, Reagan almost loses control, causes a bit of a stack up, but somehow controls the slide of that car, wrangles it into submission. 3 to go this time by. They're still racing to the checkered flag.
Absolutely incredible stuff there, and there comes a little bit of desperation out of Snyder. You saw him poke his nose down below the white line. He is pushing everything that 13 has.
You are allowed to go below the white line in Lionheart competition. This is not a track where we necessarily expect it to be such a benefit. They are bobbling through the corner right now. The car is the loosest it's been in the run. Snyder almost goes down low again, gets his nose chopped off. They are getting 3 wide for 5th on back, but up front, 2 to go. Lanini still in control. They're wrecking. Caution will end the race, and that should give Chris Lanini his 2nd victory, but they're still going. That did not end the race. 2 laps to go. Lanini's got to hang on.
Yeah, Snyder was able to keep back going around, and it looks like O'Brien pulled off down to the bottom of the track, so we are going to be racing to the white flag here.
At one point, it looks like MadWorks Esports might end 1, 2, and 3, but all 3 cars mixed up in drama. They won't even finish inside of the top 20 when all things are said and done. 1.5 miles to go. Chris Lanini leads the way with Reagan and Razmas side by side behind him. Here they come through turn 2 for the final time as Lanini gets a little bit loose. Reagan goes around. They're wrecking out of turn number 2. Lanini still in control. The yellow flag is not out. It's a drag race out of turn 3 and turn 4 to close off this season opener. Mike Razmas has got to try and time this to perfection, and for the 3rd year in a row, it will be a photo finish. Has Razmas got enough? Lanini wins it by 300ths of a second. What a way to kick off the 2022 Lionheart Retro Series as Chris Lanini wins the HyperX Miami 200.
Oh my goodness gracious, Arjuna. I remember the big accident that happened at the end of last year's race coming across the start-finish line. Near picture perfect, same thing that happened there. I can't believe Lanini was able to hold that out. That was some incredible driving.
That is how championship runs begin, with drama like that. Take a bow, Mike Razmas and Tyler Graf as well. The day belongs to Chris Lanini, who will burn the track down, his 2nd career Lionheart Retro Series win.
Well deserved for Lanini. Well deserved for that whole podium, being able to avoid it. And Tyler Graf up 13. Ricky Harden in 4th behind him, up 30. Some massive movers on the day.
What do you even say after a race like that? Lost for words. Lanini's continuing to celebrate in HyperX victory lane. Let's go ahead though and pick up what happened with some of the incidents. Let's start with what happened with Michael O'Brien as they came out of turn number 4. So Snyder got loose by himself and got into O'Brien. Snyder does a 360 no-scope, gets away with minimal damage. Because O'Brien is down low, he also gets through that without too much drama. It's then that next bit of contact, though, that really set things off.
Yes, indeed it was, and there you can see it. Oh, just the replay there. Luckily not getting the caution out, not ending under yellow, and then this is going into turns 1 and 2. You can see there the 19 machine just getting a little bit squirrely as he comes out, tries to go down here on the backstretch, trying to get by him the best he can. Gets up the track a little bit and then just starts to lose it.
Getting word that's the first top 3 sweep for Graphics LC and Lionheart competition. But here, white flag in the air and working their way through turn 1. You can see Reagan was up high. Now again, we said this in those final few laps. The cars are the loosest they've ever been, and it's a solo car incident that then flips around David Rodriguez with a subsequent bit of drama. Somehow, we stayed green through that entire sequence. Watch as it's between Ricky Harden and David Rodriguez that drama unfolds. I still don't understand, though, how we did not get the caution back out.
I don't either, Arjuna, and I don't understand how Ricky Harden was able to avoid any of that. Just absolutely incredible stuff, but a fantastic finish here at Homestead.
Here are your unofficial race results for the HyperX Miami 200, brought to you by SimRace 247. 300ths of a second. That's the margin between Lanini and Razmas. It, if you can believe it, is the 3rd closest finish here at Homestead Miami in the Lionheart Retro Series. Graphics LC Motorsports 1, 2, and 3. Tyler Graf completes the podium for them. Good day for Tyler Graft, plus 13 from where he qualified, but one of the biggest movers, in fact the biggest mover of the day, is Ricky Harden in that number 7. He's plus 30. David Sirois, a good day for the 99. Not a good qualifying performance, but he's plus 21, continuing to build on the ovals. Alex Guyon makes it 2 of the Raven Lavoie Motorsports cars in the top 6 after a disappointing day yesterday in the IndyCar Series opener. Good redemption arc for him. Trevor Malone, Adam Fraser, Robert Mikes, and Mike Rigney complete the top 10. Isaac Snyder recovers to finish down in 11th. He will be heartbroken with that. A self-inflicted mistake, potentially, that took out Michael O'Brien, Chris Reagan, Richie Hearn, and Hugo Gallas, with Will Gibson, Brian Hoffman, and Matt Taylor and David Rodriguez, the final cars on the lead lap. Michael O'Brien with significant damage, 1 lap down along with Rodrigo Munoz, completing the top 20. 2 laps down was Jim Herrick and Paul Jenkins, while the graveyard of cars was substantial. Chris Fowler, Craig Forsyth, Adam Young, Gary Godso, Cristobal Valenzuela, Chris Staples, George Anzaldo, Dustin Wardlow, and the list goes on and on and on. Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Lionel Kalisto, Luke Daniels, Marius Valikas, Danny Roberts, Matthew Schofield, Brett Accord, and Scott Holmes. The 38 cars that took to the track to get us underway. The second largest field that we've seen in a season opener here in the Lionheart Retro Series. Well, takes us quite nicely into the HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com and check out our partners there and all that they do for us here at the Lionheart Racing Series. But down in HyperX victory lane for the second time in his Lionheart career is Chris Lanini. Dramatic, Chris. What a way to win your second race, and in style as well. A Graphics LC Motorsports 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, that was incredible. That car was just crazy loose the last 10 laps or so. Go down, especially when in the shade in 1 and 2, go down in there and it'd just be sideways the whole time. I walked it up the track a couple times. But yeah, I'd also like to thank my team. Those guys, they did great. Mike raced me. Sorry, I'm shaking right now. Mike raced me good to the line, and Isaac raced me fair. I'm sorry he spun off the turn. I saw that too, but man, that's incredible.
I can understand the emotions, and talk to us about the entire race. You're saying that the car was loose at the end, but it looked like it was a racy car. It allowed you guys to be 2 and 3 wide, even with 38 cars in that pack, but it's one that required you to really be in control of the car.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a pack race. You could go anywhere with it for the most part. You had to back out a little if you went on the inside, but it was a super racy car. It's just as everything wore and as the fuel burned off, it gets super loose. So you try and balance it where you're not going to spin, but you're going to be that close to spinning, which I guess I nailed that. My strategy, I noticed that I was going to be really close on gas if I stopped a second time on that. I think it was the last caution. So I topped up and just saved gas from there. Or yeah, second to last caution. I saved gas from there and I was able to clutch it on the last caution. And I actually couldn't do a burnout because I ran out on the backstretch.
Talk to us now about how this sets up the rest of your season, because there's no better way to kick off a campaign than in victory lane.
Yeah, it was the first time I've ever won a season opener. It's a different feeling for me. It's really cool. It just sets up a really good momentum for the rest of the season. I'm looking forward to it. One other thing I did want to mention before my interview's over is I wanted to dedicate this win to my Uncle Danny, who passed away on the 27th. So he was a great guy, and I'm sure he's really happy for me right now.
Our thoughts are with you, Chris, and what a way to celebrate the life of your uncle. Go off and celebrate the rest of the night. Can't wait to see you in action in a couple of weeks from New Hampshire.
Thank you. Thanks.
You could hear the jubilation, you could hear the shaking as well from Chris Lanini in that 92 car. It was a drag race between him and his teammate Mike Rasmas. Unfortunately, Mike came up just a little bit short. DJ Clark is standing by with a 68.
I am, Mike. Just another infinitesimally close finish here, but you've got to feel good walking away with a 1-2-3 for the team.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. I can't believe just coming out of 4, I was like, oh man, it's the 3 of us. And yeah, I'm over the moon with that P2. I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I was pretty far back, about the middle of the race, and yeah, happy to make my way up through there.
Well, you took a little bit of a gamble, not nearly as much of a gamble as your teammate Chris, but on pit strategy and fuel stops. So talk me a little bit through about your mentality about how to go through that.
Yeah, that was a spur-of-the-moment choice, and it was actually the wrong choice. I would have rather taken fuel earlier, but I did want to see what would happen with the pace. It's just a little too late in the game for that, so that was the wrong choice. Me and Tyler were talking. We could have done a little bit, been a little bit smarter there, but it kind of ended up working out for us at the end just by kind of luck a little bit there.
Well, luck or however it was a fantastic end to the race for you. And I've got to ask you, with a 1-2-3, you're clearly solidifying yourselves up on to the podium here for the team's championship. But are you eyeing the team's championship more, or are you eyeing the driver's championship?
Oh, it'll be a little bit of both this season. I mean, I'm definitely just looking to have a good time with my friends and see where we end up. So far, so good. It's kind of going well on both fronts there. So we'll just see if we can keep up some, competitiveness with all the different tracks we've got coming up.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you. Anybody you want to thank here for this second place today?
Just Graphics LC, Tyler Graff, Mark Cohn, all my buddies there, and George for putting on Lionheart again this season. I think it's only getting better and better. And also thanks to you all for putting on the broadcast. Love these broadcasts.
Well, thank you, Mike. That was Mike Rasmus, your second place finisher here today. Arjuna?
And completing the top 3 sweep for the Graphics LC Motorsports camp, it was Tyler Graff in that number 98 machine. Tyler, talk us through those last 10 laps or so when things looked like they were getting hairy. You worked your way through the chaos and the carnage. Great day for you, great day for the team.
Oh my gosh, dude! I didn't even know it was 1-2-3 for the team until we came off of 4. Those last 10 laps, that was the most difficult driving I've ever dealt with. I almost lost it with 3 or 4 to go in turn 2, and I had damage from when I avoided Fowler's spin. I slid up into the wall trying to avoid him, and the right rear got tweaked, so I literally couldn't turn the wheel anywhere past the 11 o'clock position, and the set had the wheel basically at that 11 o'clock position. So I basically spent that last 10 laps turning right. I'm just so thrilled for the team. I'm so happy for Chris, Mike too. This is awesome for the team. I don't think any of us expected it to go this well, to miss all the wrecks, and just kind of be in the right place at the right time. But I'm ecstatic.
Now, you're competing in all 3 of the Lionheart sanctioned competitions. Yesterday, you got your IndyCar campaign underway. What's it like for you having to switch back and forth between 2 cars that are, totally different?
So I'm actually only running the Triple Crowns for Speedway, so I'll actually be up in the booth helping the league out for those. But the IndyCar is completely different. It requires a lot more patience to drive it, especially at Homestead. Especially last night, overtaking was so difficult last night that finishing 20th and just kind of having nothing go wrong and having an uneventful race was kind of a win, just because of how difficult it was. But between the 2 cars, it's completely opposite. The way you drive it, the way you attack the corner. The Indy car likes it a little bit more. If you kind of gingerly go in, the retro car kind of lets you throw it in, unless you're on low fuel. And then I honestly haven't driven the DW12 in years, so but I'm just really happy for the team. Happy for Chris. I know this one meant a lot for him. Happy for myself too. I've had a bad day personally, so it's just great to start the season off this well.
And you competed only in a couple of races in this car last year. How does this? You're doing full time in retro, right? Just to confirm.
Yeah, that's the plan. Assuming I get my work schedule switched, I'm on vacation time right now, actually. So, yeah, that's the plan. I'm excited.
Well, hopefully we see you do more of this, because clearly you had a good car. You were able to run different lines. You were working your way forward. Good day for you. Good day for the team. Congratulations, Tyler. And we'll see you hopefully in a couple of weeks' time from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
Yeah. Thank you, Butt Kicker. They're great to us. I had them on the car tonight. And thank you for you guys, what you do.
That was Tyler Graff rounding out our post-race interviews. And DJ, what a race. Yes, we had stop and start cautions. That's the nature of oval racing. We had chaos to the line, a little bit of everything, including some fuel strategy.
We did indeed. You couldn't really ask for anything more out of an oval race, and let alone a season opener like this, Arjuna, and it frankly just makes me more and more excited for the rest of this season.
Let's quickly talk to you about the schedule presented by Next Level Racing, and we'll talk to you about what's coming up next. 3 races in March. Next week is off. It's new build week on iRacing. Plenty of new excitement coming that we'll get to see what's coming from the iRacing staff in the next couple of days on social media. We'll go to New Hampshire after that. We'll go to Watkins Glen a couple of weeks after that, our first road course of the season. It's not far away from the first Triple Crown at the start of April. All building, of course, to the month of June when we'll head to Indianapolis for that second Triple Crown. But from there, don't have another one of those Triple Crown races until midway through December, our season finale. But next time out, March 17th, same time, same place. We're going to New Hampshire, DJ. What do we expect from this place?
I think it's going to be a different race entirely. Short track, very, very flat, very, very difficult to try to drive your way around, and overtaking is going to be at a real premium. It's going to be a real test of drivers' skill there.
How do you think we'll survive in terms of the cars? Because before we even got to the last 30 laps, 20 laps of the race, half the field had been mixed up in an incident. 38 took to the green. Yes, one had technical issues very early on. Only 18 remained on the lead lap. It was a racy set, one that you had to drive the wheels off. Produced some great racing though, but it's the type of competition where you need to put the practice in to be able to be in the right positions at the right time.
Exactly, and I think in New Hampshire you're going to see a little less attrition. It's lower speeds across the board, so you're not going to see those big pileups that take out multiple cars. You're more likely to see a couple of single-car spins that maybe take out 1 or 2.
Well, we are ready to say goodbye from Homestead. We still have the Lionheart Speedway Series opener coming up in a week and a half's time, so we'll be back in the Sunshine State, but at least for now, our Retro Series heads out with a second-time winner in its series history. Let's take the time, though, to thank all that make this possible, starting with the title sponsor of the Lionheart Retro Series. Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit www.nextlevelracing.com. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com.
You're passionate about sim racing, but always feels a little flat compared to feeling the driving a real car. Now you can feel what it's like to drive a race car. Butt kicker, haptic hardware, and software are easy to install and let you feel every bump on the track, slip of your tire, and engine redline. The tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before.
Moser Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products like their R21 direct drive wheelbase and the RS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology and made from high-end materials, Moser Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane.
Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls. Precision built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each order to build, creating a driving experience like none other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com.
It's not just them, but so many more that make it all happen. To learn more about the Lionheart Racing Series, the 3 competitions they put on, and the partners that make it all happen, visit LionheartRacingSeries.com. And don't forget as well to follow along on social media for all the latest comings and goings, news and stories from the world of Lionheart. For now, though, for the HyperX Miami 200, we are ready to say goodbye. What a season opener it was, and if this sets the tone for the rest of 2022, you do not want to miss what we've got in store for you. If you're watching live on RaceSpot TV, hit that red subscribe button, hit the bell next to it as well to get notified every single time we go live. with a great sim racing series that we get to cover. On behalf, though, of the entire team at RaceSpot TV, for Dougie Beard providing our cameras for today's action, for our partners at Timing 71 providing live timing and scoring, and ATVO powering our graphics for today's broadcast, my name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined for the first time this season, but not the last time, by the one and only DJ Clark. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time, for the Next Level Racing 150 at New Hampshire, when we go short track racing. What is on the horizon? You'll have to wait and see. For now, though, it's Chris Lanini in HyperX victory lane for the second time in his career. What a start to 2022. We'll see you next time live on RaceSpot TV.